Hey, what is going on, everybody? Ben Morgan, Fins Up Network, and we're talking a tight end in today's NFL draft player profile. And maybe not the number one tight end on everyone's mind. I think that designation goes to Georgia's Darnell Washington, but Tucker Kraft is a guy that you should probably have in your top three, four, five tight ends at the very least for potential targets for the Miami Dolphins because fun prospect to watch. We're going to talk more about him. We'll talk some strengths, we'll talk some weaknesses, and you know the drill. Most importantly, that fit with the Dolphins if he were to get drafted, because he did miss 5 games in 2022. He had an ankle injury. Want to touch on that right away. So this last year, he's not going to have the eye-popping stats from last year. But if you go back to 2021, 65 catches, 773 yards, 6 touchdowns. So he does have actual production in the past to pair along with the potential that he provides at the position. But before we dive in, I got to hear from you. You got thoughts on Tucker Kraft? Go ahead, drop them in the comments. Let's carry on the conversation there. But let's dive into his player profile, because the nice thing about Tucker Kraft is, despite playing at a lower level school against lesser competition, the physical traits are absolutely there. 6'5", 254 pounds. He's got a strong upper body. He's got the thick legs to go with it. So you know he's got the power. He's got the physical attributes that are needed to compete at the next level. Another nice thing is he's got experience kind of lining up at various spots on the field. Seen snaps in line as your traditional wide tight end, out in the slot, even some out wide. But he was used pretty heavily in both the run and the pass game during his time at South Dakota State. And the one nice thing that he pairs well along with being strong is that he's obviously not the easiest guy to bring down once the ball is in his hands. Because remember the issue with Mike Gesicki? He could obviously go up and get the ball, but he didn't really provide much in regards to production after the catch, which is definitely not the case with Tucker Kraft. He's the kind of player you want to get the ball in his hands, you want to let him create, you want to let him break tackles after the catch. And yeah, let's talk about his blocking, because I know you guys all want to know that. And yes, he is pretty damn solid at blocking as well. Now, keep in mind, he's going against weaker competition. Especially in compared to the majority of tight ends that I've been covering here this offseason in this year's class. But he has got that build. He's got that strength that allows him to be a willing blocker and, in my opinion, a capable blocker at the next level based on those physical attributes and what we've seen on tape as well. If we're turning over to the weaknesses that he may have, overall, he's not quite technically sound yet at the position. He relies more so on that athletic ability to win rather than being an outright technician at the position. However, these are definitely some things he can improve on at the next level with the right coaching. The other issue that you're going to have, and it's the big issue with any pass catcher, the occasional drop. You don't want that. Obviously, a guy that's getting paid to catch the ball. But like I said, he's pretty good after the catch. So what I've noticed is he wants to start moving. He wants to start getting upfield. He wants to create more yards before he's properly secured the ball. So sometimes, just getting that mental aspect, really honing in on catching the ball, bringing it in, and then creating is something that he could use a little bit of work on. But overall, he's already a pretty complete tight end. Just needs to hone in on the craft at the next level. And if he can do it, he will be a solid starter somewhere, in my opinion, for a long time. So let's talk about that fit with the Dolphins, because we're looking at a guy that's projected kind of third round prospect, which is kind of convenient for the Dolphins for a couple of reasons here. One, the Dolphins have both a second and a third round pick. So if they like Tucker Kraft, there's a solid chance he'll be on the board for them with at least one of those picks. And second, you could argue that tight end is probably a top 1 or 2 need currently for the Dolphins. And even if you wanted to draft for best player available rather than drafting for need, Tucker Kraft could realistically check both of those boxes, the hybrid drafting for need, best player available. You could make the case that he checks both of those boxes. Because what are we currently working with? Durham Smythe, Eric Saubert, Tanner Conner. So we're definitely going to add to the position at some point. yet this offseason. And with how talented and deep this year's NFL draft tight end class is, the draft is obviously a place where we should turn our attention to. And the nice thing about Tucker Kraft is that if he can make his way onto the field, even in his rookie season, he's already, in my opinion, a better blocker than a guy like Mike Gesicki. And he's already a better pass catching option than a guy like Durham Smythe or really anyone else that we have at the position. So there's a with tight end, there's definitely a fit in Miami, and there's definitely a path to meaningful snaps already in year one. He would just simply need to prove that he's got the mental side going for him. He's got that part of the game down, the playbook, the blocking responsibilities, running of the routes, basically all of the non-physical attributes of the position is what he would need to prove throughout the offseason to earn those meaningful snaps. But honestly, he'd be a great fit, in my opinion, for the Dolphins. Could potentially turn into the team's long-term solution at the position as well if the Dolphins were to make him the pick in rounds 2 or 3 when they are on the board. But that is what I've got on Tucker Kraft. Like I said, though, want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts on Tucker Kraft in the comments. Let's carry on the conversation there. I'll be back. Like I always say, meaningful Dolphins news comes first. We'll always cover that. Otherwise, my goal is to try to get one of these out a day. I know I'm not perfect on every single day, but that's my goal. And sometimes we don't reach our goals. But that remains my goal, and that is what I've got for Tucker Kraft. And like I said, I'll be back with plenty more prospects leading up to the NFL draft. That's what I've got for today, Dolphins fans. Until next time, fins up.